I was born, my dad was in the waiting room at a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I had my children, the trend was you're in there with your wife, helping her out as much as you possibly can, and not saying dumb things so she's mad at you.
Yeah, we may have some tough men walking around out there, but they're not in touch with their heart, and they're tearing up their world around them because they can't connect this and this.
Yeah, right.
Has your wife and your children seen you cry?
Can I say that's a story for another day? Welcome yet again to another episode of the Container Podcast. And as you know, this space is where we get real, rugged, and raw. But the whole point of us having this conversation is to share authentic stories and conversations around man and godly masculinity. That's really what we're trying to steward. And with me today, I have, let me tell you, the coolest white folks you'll ever find in town. These are my people. So I am honored and privileged. Oh man, I'm looking forward to this conversation, to have them on board. And on my left, we have Byron Myers, and on my right, we have Judson Paulin. So I don't even know if I'll do this introduction justice. And I know if I tell you to introduce yourself, you'll be very humble about it. So allow me just to make an attempt. So let me start with Judson. How would I describe this man? So
Old.
Not at all. In fact, the opposite. The looks are deceiving, but you carry this light fun with deep insight. You're such a sage, but at the same time, you carry this grandfatherly presence. I love your stories, Judson. I can sit at your feet and just listen to you because you have a very soothing voice and you just know how to synthesize stories and make them so practical and easy to understand. Like it's a gift. But also you are a truth teller. That's one thing I can give you. You have told me so many things that I've had to go deep and think through. And also being one of the first groups that have stewarded the Crucible Project, I feel like you've carried so many experiences. Just I look at you as a sensei, you know. We call him the OG. In fact, let me tell you, they're more local than you think. He goes by the name Kimathi.
Yeah.
My brother is also Kimathi, man of wisdom. If I had the privilege to give you a medal of honor, I'd give you something they call an EBS. You know what that means?
I don't.
Elder of the Order of the Burning Spear.
Oh, I thought it was elder with lots of BS. I could do that one.
You, in my eyes, you are one of those people like you have done so much for the community. And just to mention, for those maybe who don't understand what the Crucible Project is, and I'll give you an opportunity, Byron, just to quickly talk about what the Crucible Project is we serve in a community of men where we choose to look at Christ as the ultimate masculine male. And we extend this using truth and grace. And so for me, that is one of the things that I've carried through my experience when I did my Crucible project or Crucible weekend in 2018. And we will talk a little about how you guys have been here for a while. I mean, it's been 8 years of you guys coming almost twice a year. That's why I salute you, man. And welcome back home. Welcome back home.
Good to be here.
Yeah. On my left, drum rolls. Byron. Oh, man. No, when I saw you first, I thought you actually a Marine. I thought you were part of the Marines. Honestly, Byron, you carry that aura. You are a warrior, but at the same time, you're just full of so much wisdom because of the experiences that you've had. I look at you as a crusader for men's work. Like God picked you out to be on the front line. And it's like, that's my infantry. If he was like an angel, I'd call you like an archangel who's given big assignments. Go do that. Because you carry that with you. Like there's strength in your presence, and you can't deny when you walk in. Someone must notice Byron is in the room, and so I'm just happy to have you here, Byron, and thank you for all the work that you've done with our community. You've poured so much into us. I can say that there's a little Byron in me that enjoys when you're around, and also because of the fact that you've done so much for us and truly to the people we are today in the community. So we are in a community called the Soul Tribe, and this is a community of men and women who have gone through the Crucible Project weekend, and we are committed to living a life of integrity through truth and grace. That's just how those are the values that we espouse. So so welcome, man. I've tried to introduce you best way I can, but we, as the tradition of the container, we start with a check-in, and it's an emotional check-in. So what do you bring to the container today? I don't know. Maybe let me start with Byron.
Happy, tender, angry, scared. The happiness is to be here with you, somebody I admire as well. To be here in Kenya. I love Kenya. Love the Kenyan people. Angry because I don't like getting here and the jet lag that I feel. Yeah. Happy overall and the people I stay with. And then I have fear. There's still a lot to do while I'm here, and a lot of things going on organizationally that I am 8 hours ahead of everybody, and emails come while I'm asleep, and I send emails while they're asleep, and what's being left and what waits for me when I get back home. Right. So I have fear around that because I have fear. Often the fear is, what have I set up that I have to get done when I get back? It's going to take a lot of my energy, right? So yeah, that's how I'm checking in today.
Awesome. Maybe could you mention what the Crucible Project does?
Well, you did it well. Christ-like change in people. We want to point to Jesus as the ultimate male, ultimate masculine model for us, and through truth and grace. I like to describe it as we help men on our side, because we don't lead the women lead the women, but on men, we have a man show up saying, I act like this, but I want to be like this. And we give them experiences through a weekend to start a journey to become more like this. The godly man they were called to be.
Wow. Well said. I really like that analogy. I'll borrow that. Yeah, Judson, what do you bring to the container?
Well, emotionally, I'm like you, happy, excited. We've got a weekend coming up. Then we've got a training, and then we've got another weekend after that. So these things are, I just have joy and excitement around that. Ironically, when I'm here, I kind of forget about, I try to forget about what's going on at home. I connect with my wife. Yes, I get emails about things going on there, but in a way, this is just, I have joy here because this is all I'm really concerned about for the next, 2 weeks or so. So happy and excited about that. So I use the word tender, just kind of that feeling of vulnerability, partly because of being connected with you men, partly because when I do think about what's going on, just family situations, I live right near my adult children and their spouses, and have 7 grandkids among the 2 of them. So just tender as I think about the various things that they're facing while I'm gone.
Wow.
That's me.
I see you. So how do I check in? excited, clearly. Very excited to have you guys on this podcast. Excited also because I feel that this is a needed conversation. We've been doing this work for a long time now. Of course, not nearly as close as what you guys have been doing, but in Kenya, we've been running this work for about 8 years now. And we have seen just a huge uptake of, let me say, the appetite to grow. Men just hungry to learn about godly masculinity because there's an alternative narrative out here. In fact, globally, they call it the red pill movement, which is really taking root in modern day culture. And so for me, the fact that we are coming here is like, okay, let's go in with all our ammo, because the other side is not sleeping, you know. So I'm just excited to be having this conversation with you, but also happy that I'm drawing off years of experience just by the fact I feel like if there are powers, they're almost coming by virtue of your proximity. You guys with so much wisdom. I learned so much from you guys. That's why I'm also looking forward to the weekend. These weekends are powerful. I see men breaking off bondage and actually getting healing. And so it excites me. I'm also tender towards you two. I mean, some of you have done like a 26, 28 hour journey to come here. And I am also cognizant that, you know, age has caught up. There's some parts of the body that are not as strong as they used to. I mean, even I, on a 16-hour flight, it's like death row, you know. So I'm only imagining what your bodies have to take in terms of a beating for you to be here. Just very tender. And you came in last night. I'm just like, really, is that even human to book someone on a podcast the following day? But you agreed. And I'm like, knowing that we speak authentically, if you didn't want to be here, you'd have told me so.
That's right.
So I'm happy that we just have that authentic, truthful space where we can communicate our emotions. Yeah, that makes me, tender. Yeah, I'm in. So,
Welcome.
fantastic. So today's topic is going to be an interesting one. You know, I really thought about, it's like I have just one bullet, make it work. So I looked and I'm like, now that I'm sandwiched between my two favorite mzungus, yeah, they call it an inverted Oreo, as Michael Byron would say, a reverse Oreo. I thought, what would be a good topic of discussion? And for me, cultural nuances kind of strike me. Why? Because there's this phrase that both of you throw around, and especially now that you're exposed to this work, doing it in different parts of the world, that men are men everywhere. That, for me, was like, what do you mean? Because before I kind of had a glimpse of what that means, I used to look at some of the challenges that we're facing as African men as unique. I thought they were unique to us, but they're not. It's like it's the same wounding, but we have different masks. Or it's the same wounding, but we show up. Or the wrapper looks different. The branding, the outside suit that we wear is different, but it's the same wounding. And so that's one of the things we want to discuss. What are some of the lies that we've inherited as men across the different cultures? You as an as an American white man, and I as an African black man, there are things that I've learned. There's a code of conduct that I've ascribed to based on different things, based on my culture, schools I've gone to, the church I've attended, the family I've been raised in. And so I'm just thinking, can we debunk, can we unpack some of those stereotypes? So the way this will work, because I feel I've been talking a lot, I'll mention a stereotype. you'll start by saying either it's a myth or it's a truth. I'll start with you, Judson. Okay. African men do not feel or express emotions, while white American men are emotionally expressive.
Myth. If that's what you're asking.
Myth?
I don't believe that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Well, let me start with this.
Okay.
I don't think there's even one American. So we're 346 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Byron lives in a whole nother part of the country. So even the myth that there's some sort of uniform American male culture, even that is, I would challenge that.
Agreed.
And we're from many European cultures. So even, the white Americans, we don't all come from the same European area. And we don't appreciate, it's helpful to appreciate the variance that happens even among white European cultures, which show up often in America. So I think some American men are very expressive. I think some American men are very not expressive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't buy the stereotype. Not only do I not buy the stereotype that there's only one American male culture, but I certainly don't believe that it's, that we don't have variation, and some men are very stoic, some men are very non-expressive in American culture. And I look at my family and we were very non-expressive. So
Really?
I've learned to be something somewhat out of character with the rest of my family.
For me, what's interesting is because I guess the picture that I have, maybe based on my experience, and maybe it could be very subjective, is that I find American men, especially the white man, when I say more expressive, for me, I look at it as fact. So it's not a myth. This is for me fact. I'm just like, they have language to emotions. They know how to describe how they're feeling and what they're feeling. And they do it almost publicly. And I know this could be a very small sample, but this is kind of that's why it's a stereotype. This is just a general assumption. And I'm like, for us, why is it Africans? We struggle. We struggle so much. Like I know telling another brother that I love you it's just off the radar. Like, don't do that. You're crossing a line. But I feel like with American white men, you guys are so open with your emotions, and even just your tears. It's like us. We have a dry well. I don't. It's like they don't hit the aquifers. It's like for white men, like the emotions just rise up and you just express it, or maybe those are the ones that have been exposed to. So I feel like I just have a different look on things. But Byron, what's your take? What's your experience?
Yeah, I agree with Judson. We have multiple cultures in our country, and so you'll see different things. And we were talking about it before, but some of what you see is a false expression or an unhealthy expression. So men are not in the United States expressing emotion well, and you will see it dramatically or through anger or through things that they do because they're doing the same thing. They're holding it under the waterline. But I get to observe your culture. And I've seen expressive men in your culture. Driving in traffic, I watch their expressiveness, men talking and their hands moving, and he is really passionate about telling his passenger about what's going on in life. So I see expression in your culture as well.
So you don't think Africans are stoic? You don't?
I can see where the brand of masculinity in Kenya would be, I can't be that because I have to be strong. I have to be the leader of my family. I can see where there is some oppressive or suppression of emotion amongst Kenyan men. But I have also seen expressive Kenyan men. Yeah. And I agree. I think that some of your sample is because in Crucible, we are teaching ourselves how to express.
Mhm.
So you're getting to see us work our expression out a little more.
Yeah.
So, and you're around us a little bit more than you are maybe other Mzungus. So,
Mm,
yeah, you get to, but if you came to the United States, you will find many a Stoic man.
mm. And maybe let's go a level deeper. And what do you think generally would be causing that kind of behavior? As you're saying, Americans, maybe their expressive nature or lack of has been seeded by some. You said something about suppressing. So what is that? What's underneath that?
Yeah, you talked about wounding,
Hmm.
and that is usually the case in some way. They've been wounded, and then they're looking to men. We really have no initiatory path in the U.S. for men.
Hmm.
So they watch the men around them and they mimic and model the men around them. And those men were mimicking and modeling the men ahead of them.
Mm.
The generations just before Judson and I were not expressive. You just didn't talk about things. You're just, man, John Wayne, do your thing, right? And so they didn't express, and we've watched that. Now, you may be seeing a culture underneath just below us in terms of age that said, I'm tired of this type of lifestyle
Yeah.
and I want to be expressive, but they don't know how to do it well.
Hmm.
But the wounding of either I'm not enough or do I have what it takes? Yeah, do I have a purpose? Am I relevant?
Yeah.
Do I matter? Those things play into, well, I can't say that because I might be perceived as weak. I will hold that close in.
Mm.
They start holding that close in. They hold emotion close in as well.
Yeah. Wow. I relate to that because I think when I first did my weekend, I realized that there's a lot of unlearning I need to do. More than learning, I had to unlearn a lot. And I think you've alluded to that, Judson. You're like, there are things that you've had to learn over time. And maybe would you mention some of the things that you knew before and you thought this is the cultural norm of masculinity that you adopted as your truth, and you're like, no, this is not it. I need to start to shed off. Anything you could share on that area?
So at the risk of going in too much detail here, just a little bit of a American history, if you will.
Yeah.
So, you guys kicked the British out in 1963. We
Mhm.
kicked them out in 1776.
Mhm.
But in 1800, okay, the year 1800, 90% of Americans lived on farms. 90%. So it was really a culture of surviving on the farm, and they were small farms. They weren't big, huge farms. By 1900, now 40% of Americans are living in farms. And by the year 2000, only 10%. Everyone else is in the cities. So there's been this massive movement, but in the cultural myth of America, for many, it's this survival era during the 1800s, early 1900s. It's surviving against the odds. It's living in a culture or living in an area where you have to eke out your living, where you have to farm, you have to, you make enough to survive on and not much more. So in that realm, the idea is you have to survive. And how do you survive in that? Well, one thing is you don't worry about how you feel.
Yeah.
You just do what you have to do to survive. So if you're living in the farm, that's what you do. You just do. The cows have to be milked in the morning. They don't wait a day. They don't give you a day off. They don't say, I'm sorry you're sick this morning. Go ahead and take a pass. Come get me tomorrow. So the mentality is to survive, we have to stifle our emotion. We have to hold that inside. So, and then we lived through, like most of the world did, the Great Depression of the 1930s. The whole world, much of the world was in a difficult place. And then we entered into World War II, which was, almost the whole world was part of that. So you don't survive if you worry about your feelings.
Mm.
Got a task to do.
So my parents, my generation, not my generation, but the generation that came before me, were very much, you can't, there's feelings are a luxury. You have to just do what you have to do to survive.
Yeah.
Now, when when I was born, my dad was in the waiting room at a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I had my children, the trend was you're in there with your wife,
wife.
helping her out as much as you possibly can, and not
Yep.
saying dumb things so she's mad at you. So, even that change, that
Yeah.
difference of, as a man, I step back, my wife has children, and I just let her take care of the kids.
Yeah.
That's changed just in my generation, let alone, a generation or two that's been coming behind that. So that's a big shift.
Yeah.
That's a big change
Yeah.
that we've moved away, but some of it still lingers.
Right.
My dad, I saw him cry one time.
Mm.
And the one time I heard him cry was when he came in to tell me and my sister that he and my mom were separating.
Mm.
That's the only time I saw him cry. They're just, he was just, but he was fun. He was likable, but emotionally he was very flat.
Mm. You know what's interesting is I thought, because I've also seen my dad cry once.
Mm.
And for me, it was like a historical moment.
Mm.
And it was, he just got a stroke and he wasn't able to speak for some time. And I think he's gotten better and his speech is back. But he explained to us how he felt like his world has shattered. Like he had so much to tell us and to offer us, but he can't speak. And so it broke him.
Yeah.
And so he shed a tear when we were just around him on the hospital bed. So that was hard to see. But I was just like, wow, was that my dad shedding a tear? So I don't know. I don't know why, for some reason, I thought Americans cry a little more. But it seems, no, it's not the norm. I guess there's a shift that's happening globally and not just culturally, right?
Has your wife and your children seen you cry?
Can I say that's a story for another day?
My children have seen me cry many times.
Oh, really?
So the shift has happened.
I don't know if my kids have seen me. My wife, of course, she has, and she can count it. I'm sure they didn't even go past one hand. But yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I've shed a tear in front of my children.
Do you? Why is that?
I don't want to say I've not found the opportunity. Just maybe because I'm still learning or practicing vulnerability and almost weakness in front of them. Sometimes I feel like if I show them this other side, they might go into a frenzy. And they would, I just think they would be like, oh, if dad is crying, like we have no shield around us.
So your tears will scare them.
Will scare them. I think.
Did your dad's tears scare you?
No, but they moved me to deep compassion.
Yeah.
They moved
connection. They moved you towards him.
Absolutely.
Not away from him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like maybe rationally, I'm feeling like those tears, because they are quite young, they're in the ages of 5 to 12, they might not know how to process that emotion at that age. But I don't go hiding. I don't go into, it's just that maybe the opportunity hasn't a reason for me just to be extremely vulnerable with them. Yeah. But I'm sure it will come sometime soon. But good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he knows how to express that. I still struggle. I talked about wounding.
Yeah.
My father left the house. He still stayed in town, but he left to divorce my mom at about 11 for me. And he left me in charge of mother and brother. He would not allow me to feel sad because he might feel bad. And then his sister, who was well-meaning, trying to help, gave me a little booklet that's called Acceptance, which basically said, bad things are going to happen. What are you going to do with your life to move forward? And I stuffed sadness at a very young age and still wrestle with. I can feel it. I can feel it come up. But if it's a duty situation, it quickly goes back down. I'm not even stuffing it. It just automatically, oh, I've got a duty. Gone. Right. So when I talked about wounding being a part of what holds that I can express anger really well. But the sadness part has been really hard for me. So my kids have seen me cry very little. And it makes me actually sad that that's true, but not to the point that I come to tears. It's just, yeah.
Byron, I'm curious. Where did we learn how to perform? Because it seems when you say it's almost you suck back the emotion and suppress it. Who taught us how to do this? Because it feels like men just naturally need to perform and to show up in a certain way, and emotions are not part of the equation. We just have to be goal oriented, get things done.
Yeah.
Who taught us that?
Well, I think our fathers, right? My father, I think I saw Dad cry maybe 3 times, Judson, for me, and it was very similar. You could hear the crack in the voice, you could see the tears in the eyes, and then duty took over. And so I got it modeled, and then it was reinforced by mean boys at school, right? If I were to cry, I'm going to hear it. There were going to be all kinds of names that would come with it. And so then it's, and I also remember one time getting in a fight in the park across the street, and I cried out, and Dad telling me, don't you ever do that in a fight.
Because what did he want for you?
Yeah.
He just wanted me to be strong.
Okay.
Right.
So he thought that's the way to do
Yeah,
it.
that's all he knew, because his dad, I remember his dad being very stoic.
I remember a situation very similar to yours. We had a fight in the neighborhood, and I came crying, and I came and told my dad, man, this guy punched me, kicked me. In fact, I had like a footprint on me. Like I knew he was going to come defend me. He told me, young boy, you go back and fight that boy. Deal with him. I was scared. He was 2-3 years older than me. He was slightly taller, but he was quite buff, of course, as a boy. And I'm like, no, this is not the time. I need defense. I need someone to come defend me. And so when you say that, I'm just like, I connect to that. And that actually brings me to my second stereotype, because we've talked about parenting. And this is very interesting. Fathers must be tough to raise strong sons. So is that a myth or a fact? And I'm also saying that because there's a way you've mentioned that they've wounded us, not because they intended. It's maybe they had good intentions, but they just didn't have the right tools.
Yeah.
They are not as informed.
Yeah.
What? Just speak about that. Maybe Byron, if you can.
It's a myth, but it is a practice. It's a myth that have to be tough to raise strong boys, but it is a practice to be tough to raise strong boys.
So does it work?
Yeah. Well,
does the practice breed results?
Not healthy results.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we may have some tough men walking around out there, but they're not in touch with their heart, and they're tearing up their world around them because they can't connect this and this.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about this check-in and the check-in we do, and I know Judson teaches a check-in often. I teach check-in around men, and I feel this need to qualify to these men. This isn't touchy-feely. This is actually 2 things. If you don't express your emotion, it will express itself unhealthy. It will control you.
Yeah.
Second, by expressing your emotion, you're actually present in the here and the now, rather than off somewhere else thinking of other things while you're in the presence of people. And so I try to train that for them to understand, because the first thing they think of probably is a tough father who said you don't show emotion. So they can be tough men and real men. All the while, they've got this going on inside of them, and they don't know what to do with it.
Mm, mm. And Judson, what has been your experience? And also speak to that point about emotions, because why do we struggle to feel? We are very good at rationalizing our feelings. Why is it hard to go to that place? Yeah, as also you talk about your experience.
Let me go back to we use the word tough. I think that's the hang up, because there's a bunch of other words you can use there that actually they do encapsulate some truth. So, for example, I want my son to be a son of conviction.
Mhm.
I want him to hold his own when the world is pushing against him.
Yeah.
Now, is that toughness? I wouldn't use the word tough. I would say I want him to be a man of character. You know, I want him to be a person with resolve. I want him to be able to not just blow over at the first wind of opposition.
Mhm.
So I don't like the word tough because it makes it sound like not emotional.
Mm.
But what I'm really after is, you know, solidity. I'm after strength. Now that's where the thing starts breaking down, because when we start using words like that, then you can insert things like feelings. You can be a man of resolve like Jesus was. And you know, it says he set his face like flint to Jerusalem, and not that much later he's weeping at the tomb of Lazarus,
Yeah.
you know, who's died. Lazarus is dead, and he's crying at the sadness of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have an example in Jesus where someone can be really strong and a man of conviction, but he's not tough. Now, the other thing I want my son to be able to do is I do want to give him some experiences. I want to push him a little bit. You know, when he was little, I was thrown up in the air, and my wife is going, "Oh, what are you doing?" You know, I'm developing his inner ear and balance. And
Yeah.
so I'm having, he's fine. I'll catch him. You know, and he would jump and say, "Catch me, Dad," and you know, I catch him. So, and he loves to climb. You know, even as a grown up now, he loves climbing. He's not afraid of these things. So there is something about, I don't want him to think the world is a soft place. That is true. But toughness, being tough on him is not the answer. Giving him experiences where he's stretched, supporting him in that, letting him fail, letting him drop some things, letting him get a little banged up. That's something tough, but it is enabling him to be a stronger young man. Now, of course, he's grown and he's got boys of his own. So I'm watching this unfold as he does that. But it's really the similar thing. It's letting him feel, letting him experience. Then the difference between, I think, what I have learned now, and I didn't know this as well when my kids were young, is letting them talk about their experience, let them process the experience, let them talk about how they felt while they did the experience. That's a relatively new learning for me. Certainly it wasn't anything that I was raised with, but I've seen the value of that. So I can still give my son some toughness, or my grandsons now, to have them feel that they can be stretched and they can go farther than they think they can. And then they can talk about how that's hard, or that makes me sad, or that makes me scared. That you can blend those. They don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah. But I see what you're saying, Judson, but there are a good portion of our men in the United States who don't see it that way, right? They think tough is the way to go to be able to get a boy there.
Yeah. And preparing him for the real world.
Yeah. I did similar to Judson. There were times where I held my son down and he had to work his way out. Right. And that's teaching him that edge, but it was in a loving way. But I tell you where I dropped the ball is if we crossed a line somewhere and his emotion made me feel uncomfortable, then I did something to say that needs to stop. Rather than let him finish his expression of emotion. Now, as he grew older and I got to be a part of Crucible, I realized, oh, wow, I gave more leeway, but some of the damage was done, right? Because it was done in the formative years rather than at 13, 14, 15, where,
Mm.
yeah, you can express that.
Mhm.
Then tell my wife, it's okay. He's masculine. I got this. Right.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So yeah, it's a fascinating deal. That's why I say it's a myth, but it's practiced in a way that's practiced poorly.
Yeah. And for me, the experience is, I've seen my dad almost curate tough situations for me, so that kind of give it a taste, to give me a taste of the real world. And part of growing up was sending the boys to a boarding school. And the boarding school, when you're sent to a boarding school, you're absent from your family. There's a level of emotional detachment. You have to learn how to survive and things of that nature. And it was the practice, as you're saying, to get them to grow up and to almost experience the real world. But I started to realize that it created a void in me, in the sense that I've always wanted now to be seen, because dad didn't give me that. Like, he was not emotionally present. He meant well, but he didn't tell me, I'm proud of you. I see what you're doing. Keep going. I literally had to fight my way to try and get it. And even if I did get to his standard, it's like, if he said it, it will make me not shine. It's like I will lose my gravitas if something of the sort. But I notice now that has made me almost seek affirmation in wrong places. Because right now, as I do this, even now in this podcast, I'm like, am I doing well? Are they seeing me? Am I trying? And I'm trying to get that validation, which is unhealthy. And I've noticed I seek it from men of status, men who have value. So if I set you on a high bar, then I almost want to draw closer to you to get that affirmation that I'm doing well. Very unhealthy. Because even when I look at it biblically, I see even Jesus himself was affirmed by God. Remember when he was getting baptized and he was like, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased. Like, even before he started his mission.
And that's key. So his mission flowed out of knowing he was the son that was well pleased. He didn't do his mission to get the well pleased. That is the difference, isn't it?
Absolutely. But how many times do we move from places of affirmation? Like, we're almost moving from places of emptiness and just our devoid nature. So when you mention that, I don't know, do you see it playing out in your lives as well? Do you feel like there are areas that you're devoid, that you're seeking some level of affirmation, trying to, get this for yourself to keep you going?
Yes. One, my mother was the stoic. And I did not feel like I ever measured up for her. Dad would tell me he was proud. Dad ran the football field with me. Right. So I knew there was some level of, now there were things he did that still, that I can't measure up to him. Right. One of the classic things that I talk about, I'd be working on something with him and he'd say, here, let me show you how to do that. And he'd never give it back. He just finished it himself because it was easier, and so I got a little bit of that, but really it came more from my mother, who was so stoic, did not know how to nurture. And so I would seek the affirmation of women because I did not get that affirmation from her. So, but yes, wherever the void is, I think we will chase that void.
Powerful. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, there's sort of the masculine needing to have a masculine blessing, and then also needing to have a feminine blessing,
Mm.
and their, version of mom, version of dad. And there's all kinds of things we do, and they look all grown up.
Mm.
The guy that goes out and has an affair, he looks all grown up.
Mm.
He's doing sexual things. That's what adults do. But what's really going on is there's a little boy in there who's wanting love, who's wanting touch, and it's not that it's still morally right. It's not morally right. But inside of that is a longing for something that actually is not evil or bad. It's not evil to want love. It's not evil to want, compassion, and it's not evil to want touch. But the absence, we will seek it, and we look like adults when we seek it, but we're actually little children seeking it in ways that, unfortunately often get us into trouble.
Yeah, and so what is the healthy way of getting that for yourself? Now you're grown, of course, you have that wounding, and the little boy is trying to get this for himself, can be in a healthy way, as you're saying. So what are healthy ways of getting this?
Well, first of all, it's not a straight path. So you don't just flick a switch and then go, okay, I'm going to do this now. This is deep work. It is really hard, first of all, to recognize all these lacks, all these places where something is missing. And you have to have a context to do that. And generally, you have to have a community context. You're not going to do this on your own. So one of the reasons that, Crucible exists is because our founder and many men along with him realized that men need places where they can do this together, where there's a peer support to do this hard work. So you can't do it alone. The other thing is you can't do it without recognizing that this is going to come in layers. You're going to peel back one layer and think you've got it, and then you're going to find, there's even something underneath that. So this is just diagnosis and helping to see what's going on. And then the other thing is just to recognize in all the things that I've been doing. So I went into ministry. I went into church work. Part of that was because I wanted to serve God. I loved God, and I wanted his pleasure and felt like he was leading me. But I also recognized as I did ministry, I sounded smart. And I got an education so I could sound smart. And I thought I was being appreciated because I was smart. Why was that so important to me, to sound and feel and believe I'm smart? Well, it goes back to my family of origin, because I was the youngest of 4 children, and my siblings were all smart. They all knew way more than I knew. And my mother and dad seemed smart. And I was always the baby that never seemed as smart as they did. So one of the longings I had from a very early age was, hey, see me. Don't you hear? I have a point of view that's interesting too. And I have thoughts. This might be true. Can you hear me saying these things? And of course, growing up, I think, again, they meant well, but it was a big family and I just didn't get seen. So in my adult life, I discover in ministry, I can actually have all that happen. Now, when I started doing my work and realizing what was going on, I recognized, okay, I have to land this. Am I smart, whether people see it or not? Number 2 is, does it matter if I'm smart? Are people valuable even if they're not smart? And I came to the conclusion that, I'm okay the way I am. I want to serve God. I want to serve in ministry. I want to share what I've learned, but I don't have to. And I'm not looking for people there to ever be the voice of my mom or my dad or my older siblings to tell me that. I spend time here getting that from God. I get that from people in my life that aren't congratulating me and appreciating me for all that I've done. They just see me for who I am. So I do need human voices to say that, but not in effusive praise, just seeing me for who I am and loving me the way I am.
Wow. So it's from what I understand, it is not also bad to get it from human voices. Just don't be dependent on it.
Correct.
It
Right.
seems that still your dependence is on God to affirm that particular part. And it's hard to reconcile that. Then you've done a lot of work, because honestly, like, you are full of so much wisdom and intelligence. So when I'm hearing the wounding and I'm like, hard to reconcile with the person that you are today. That's just brilliant. Now, I want to switch this conversation a little bit. That was just the first layer. We have an intrusive layer, which we call the container. So the container has questions that we need to deeply reflect and almost connect with that part so that we can authentically share our stories. And there's also a mirror card. So you're not obliged to answer. You have a get out of jail card, but at the same time, you will need to answer either question on the mirror card if you choose to pass. So I was going to do another stereotype, but I looked at the time and I'm like, I think it's better we go into the container.
I did, before you went into the container, want to say,
yes,
this touches what we talked about. Men are men everywhere.
Yeah.
Because the stories Judson and I tell, men are feeling this in Kenya. And there's a little boy who's acting out through the adult man when he's doing things that he knows he's not supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
That's one of those spaces where men are men everywhere.
That wraps it up so well. I don't even to add anything. Thank you first for even just bringing the whole loop together. Because I also see that there could be someone who's looking and feeling underprivileged because of his situation, but only to realize that, look, we're dealing with the same core problem. Maybe the question is, what is it that I'm actually dealing with at a core level? And everything else is just a wrapper that you can just... But it's a lot of work. As much as I'm saying it's this easy,
it's real.
It's a lifetime.
Yes.
It's a lifelong work that we need to be doing.
Absolutely.
So, who wants to do the honors of starting us off?
I think Byron does. I nominate. So we have to. Okay.
So, but we'll answer one at a time.
Okay.
All right. Am I first?
Yep.
You're first. When in my life did I first realize that what people call being a man was costing me tenderness, truth, or connection? Yeah, I think I want to go back to that. I really haven't thought about this much. That fight where Dad told me not to cry out like that. And then the reinforcement at school that couldn't be tender, couldn't live in that connection, had to really put on a tough facade to be able to survive. I think that's what hit me. But it was such a paradox because I knew the girls around me would need that tenderness, but I didn't know how to touch that. So I made fun of them. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's, I don't know, 4th, 5th grade ish for me. So 9, 10.
9, 10.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have anything to add in terms of your own experience?
Well, you touched on something that it struck me, which is we're also formed by our peers. And I'm thinking about the razzing and the teasing that I got. It was just brutal from kids my own age. And I realized that actually shut down a lot of my feelings because it was like, okay, to be accepted, I have to not feel too deeply because these guys are going to tease me about it. And I wanted their acceptance.
Yeah.
So that also, even to this day, I can sort of feel their voices of mocking in my head, as much as also my parents. Now, they didn't mock me for my feelings. They just didn't seem to have them the same way. But I was teased brutally, as many of us were, by our peers.
Oof. Yeah. Oh. Your turn.
Now all right.
Your turn.
My question: where are you still trying to earn a blessing from your father, your culture, the people around you that you never received freely. Well, I touched on it. One of the things I want for my life is I want my life to matter. I want it to count. And I remember growing up, I thought, especially when I touched on my parents' separation, I thought, I don't want to have that kind of regret. I don't want to get to be their age and feel like one of the most important decisions I ever made was the wrong one, that I married a person or couldn't make it work or whatever. So for me, making my life count, making it matter for something bigger than myself. And so the thing about ministry, what's seductive about it is doing things for other people can feel like I'm doing that. Like, see, I matter. But notice, even the tone of voice I use when I say that, it's a little boy. See, I matter.
Yeah.
Now, I've done enough work that I'm aware of this. I haven't overcome it, but I'm aware of it. It doesn't surprise me anymore. And I hear it. I mean, even in your very gracious words when we're setting up, I'm just thinking, yeah, not really. He's being nice to me, but he's supposed to be nice to me. I want it to be real. I want that blessing of my life counting and being seen. So again, it's still there, but it has not imprisoned me. It's not a secret anymore. It's out in the open. I know that. And the other thing I've recognized is that I'm never going to be able to do what I hoped I was going to be able to do. I'm never going to count as much as I want to. And is that okay? And I think I've come to the point of recognizing it is because I feel like I've done the work God gave me to do. And there's always more. Right. I mean, Jesus died at 33. How much more could he have done if he'd lived to be 80? Why did God cut him off short? Yeah. He could have done so much more. Yeah. Why? Because he finished the work he was here to do. It's not about how long you live. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to prove anything to anybody, but I really do want to hear the good, well done, good and faithful servant. I do want to hear that. And no human being has got that voice. They just don't.
I'm just curious. Did you have to mourn that part that dreamed that you'd be something different than you are today?
Well, one of the experiences that really made this happen for me, and the quick answer is yes. It was as if someone was pulling my skin. I worked for a church for almost 30 years and thought I was a permanent, part of this thing. I thought, I'm going to die here. They're going to come in and I'm going to have my head down on the desk and be dead. That's my life. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to keep working in this church. It's going to be wonderful. And after 29 years of working there, I was graciously and kindly, but nevertheless told, thank you. We think your time here is done. It wasn't my choice. They asked me to leave. And I remember my last day working there, I walked outside and there was a guy who was working on the grounds and he's cutting the grass and doing some stuff with the bushes and trim. And I thought, this guy here with a trimmer in his hand, they think he's more valuable than me. I'm leaving. They made me leave, but they're keeping him. And just this realization that there is simply nothing permanent. I thought that this would be a forever thing, and it isn't. So to recognize that's not my identity, that place, that thing is not my identity. And the same is true with my involvement in Crucible. Now, it's not I don't make a living at it. I do as much as I can, but it too is not my identity. 100 years from now, no one's going to remember my name. It's not named after me. Yeah. You're not going to see my name anywhere.
Yeah.
So I've reconciled that the things I do here are not the thing that's going to make my life permanent. It's just not here. And it was painful the first time I recognized how much that meant to me to have to lose this identity thing. But it's a lot less painful now. And I still wrestle with it.
That must be hard to also reconcile. There's something that you keep telling us in the container. There's this quote. I don't know if it's by Greg Houston about no one will remember my name, but the work continues to live on even past you.
Yeah.
Do you remember the exact phrase? Because it's put so well. Do you mind sharing that?
Well, I think you're referring to the manifesto thing that's at the beginning of his book,
Correct.
where he says, it's people 100 years from now saying we don't remember their names, whoever started this, but
Yeah.
we're still the beneficiaries of what they did.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's true. That's really what the only thing we can offer is the good things we do last forever, not our names, not our, the legacy that we think is, in our name or with our imprint on it. It's actually the work that God did through us. The other quote that really sobered me was recognizing, what does God get out of our life? Really, it isn't the things we do; it's the person we become. That's what goes into eternity. And so the thing that I recognize God gets out of my life is the man I become, not the things I do.
Clock it. That's what that's just what we would say.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. It's the person we become. Man, I don't like the process of becoming that person, but I guess that's
what's the alternative?
To live that reckless life and get what you want, but at the end of it, extremely costly. I mean, it's a balance. It's also trying to see, we are here for, when you look at the grand scheme of things, it's really a speck when it comes to the entirety of our lives. So yeah, it's not totally worth it. Let me just put it that way. So it's rather we live with purpose. Yes, over to my question. So if Jesus stripped away every cultural script you inherited about masculinity, wow, what kind of man do you think he would be inviting you to become? I'd say, in one word, an authentic man. A man whose words and his actions are congruent. And just strip off all that BS. All those things that give me validation. And let me bring this home. Maybe just to start off, what are the cultural script that I inherited was, first, I need to be financially stable. I need to be a man who takes care of his family, just good man standing in society, honorable, respectful. And my path has not always been that way. A lot of it in the beginning has been a lot of pretense to become this honorable man. But truly, inside, nothing close. In fact, I was a two-faced person where it's almost I would play to a gallery. So if I'm with my Christian folk, I have the language, I'd act a certain way. If I'm with these other guys who are in the world doing a lot of things, I'd flow with them. And in the beginning, I just found it's like two worlds rubbing against each other. And I was just fake, just generally. And slowly, God convicted me that, hey, you need to start shed off some of those habits and just be the man I'm calling you to be. You look straight, in my perception. You look straight, boring, dull. But again, you asked, what's the alternative? I continue with my reckless nature, or should I take the straight and narrow? But it's pleasing to God. And deeply, that part is fulfilling. Like, the world promises a lot, but it takes away even more. So I don't want to be that person. I'd rather be this person who's living in this square life. Let me call it that way. Yeah. So I think that's the man God would be calling me to be.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good.
Your turn. We're doing one more round before we end this session.
One more round of
Yep.
questions.
Yeah.
I'll
There,
pick,
there are more questions.
I
here.
will pick the one up
Okay.
off the table.
Go for
more.
it.
In what part of your life do you look the strongest on the outside while secretly feeling the most unfinished, afraid, or alone? So I realize that there have been a lot of accomplishments for me, and there are people relying on me still. Set my life up that way. So, but underneath the unfinished or afraid is I see still the failures, and they can stack on me. They can stack up. I see little things in my adult children that, wow, I missed a boat here, and look at how they're acting now. Or, yeah, our weekends are starting to grow again after pandemic, but I still see one that canceled or one that only has 15 when we should have 26, right? I still see those areas when I'm getting praised for something over here. Oh, but you don't see over here where I'm really sucking at this.
Yeah.
All right. I see my passivity and how I can get it done under the wire and turn it in and have all this stress while you see what looks like, oh, I've done, you're just living your purpose, Byron. No, I'm disliking all this admin stuff. Right. So, yeah, I think that's probably where I'm showing this strength, but feeling underneath, I don't feel like I'm doing very well at all.
And so, are you saying it shows up in terms of passivity? Because you
It
mentioned
can. It can be passivity, or it'll show up in anger. Yeah. Yeah. And it's shown up in some burnout for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Defensiveness.
Defensiveness?
Yeah. That's when I know I'm not living my identity. I've learned that when I'm defensive, that means I have taken the role that I'm defending on as an identity.
And who are you defending? What are you? Because it's not really
I'm
what are you
defending
defending.
that role, right? Because I've identified with it. So you are talking about me. You're not just talking about my role. Now you're talking about me.
So you've attached your identity to the role.
Yeah.
I see that.
Discovered that a year ago here.
And
in Africa.
And it's hard to detach
Yeah.
your work from who you are. Is that a struggle?
Yeah.
And it happens a lot also to passionate people.
Mm-hmm.
Those that are deeply passionate. It's like almost an extension of yourself. Your work is an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
And so when someone criticizes the work, they've criticized you.
Yep.
That's powerful, Byron. Thank you for sharing. Let's go to the OG himself.
Okay, read this.
Yeah, this is the last round.
Right. What did the men around you teach you to do with fear, grief, or weakness? And how is that shaping the man you are now? Is this talking about in my formative years? What did the men around me teach me?
Yes, I think is going back into your formative years.
Again, I kind of touched on this with the peers. You know, I was not, you know, what boy in the schoolyard is ever tell us about your sadness right now? I mean, no one says that, you know, as a young boy. I think what I did notice, there was a mentor of mine that I admired a lot. And one of the things that he had a real hard time doing was showing weakness. He could show some fear, he could show some grief, but to be weak was just not acceptable. And partly I got it, because if he showed weakness, you know, the sharks would attack. So I know that in my life, I have been afraid of weakness, and I've been afraid to say I needed help. It was just a funny example, but I remember getting into some financial difficulties, and my wife and another mentor both were telling me, why don't you talk to someone that understands money? Because you clearly do not. And I was like, no, I got to solve this. I got to figure this out myself. And I finally went to see somebody that really helped me. And I thought, this is so dumb. Why did I wait so long to reach out for help? So that's an example of, again, of my dull life, where what's so bad about asking for help in an area that, I mean, I don't know how to manage. I didn't know how to manage money that well.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, and for me, it's been different things over the years. I've learned that asking for help has actually made me a better person. So I'm not nearly as afraid of it as I used to be. But I still don't like to be weak, and I've seen people that modeled that for me, and I kind of wish I wasn't a weak man, but given the alternative that I am one, I may as well admit it, because the alternative is to be a weak man and pretend you're not. And everybody sees through that.
Yep. Oh, that's true. You can't hide. I mean, we think we're hiding.
Yeah, yeah.
We think, absolutely. They wouldn't tell, but they can see right through you.
Yeah, you're the last one to admit.
Yeah. I mean, practicing authenticity is not easy. It's not easy at all. So let me go to the last question. I think
this is the last one there.
Is this?
It's out and ready to be read.
All right. Why does it look huge? It's not a whole composition. What lie about manhood did your culture hand you early that looked like strength, but was actually teaching you how to hide? Why do I feel like it's like a chain from what you say? It keeps coming. That actually taught me how to hide. I think it has to be strong men don't show weakness, and strong men command authority. When you're vulnerable, you're weak, no one can trust you, and you don't have a lot of bargaining power. You lose your authority around a table. But I think that's the ultimate lie that culture has taught me, because it looks like strength. It masks itself like strength, but it's actually the opposite. In fact, there's strength in vulnerability. I have noticed the number of times I've actually admitted to my wife that I suck at this. I've seen her grace come in, and for some reason, I was able to rise up. And a good example would be in parenting. You see, she expected me, let me put it this way, being the dad, I'm the guy who will fix the bikes, take them out on a wild adventure. I'm just not that man. No, I'll call a fundi to come and fix the bike. I'll get it done, but just don't depend on me. And at first, I hid that a lot, because you tell me, do this. I'm like, I am struggling within, but I can't show her, because I'm trying to be a good husband, a good father. I'm trying to show up as a man. But she was like, she could see through me. And I started to slowly realize that, the quicker I admit, the quicker help comes in. And she's good at it, honestly. Like, she's better at fixing. And it is almost emasculating when you see that happen, when she's fixing things around and you're just there like, oh, wow, that looks nice. Or when she's she's very good at organizing the finances, and I'm expected to be the person, leader of the home, drive the finances. I'm just not that man. And so when I started to realize that I'm just not good at it, and I don't need to hide and try and look perfect and having everything sorted out, I got freedom. I got relief because I shine in other areas.
Mhm.
I'm great in other areas that I'm proud about that I don't hide anymore, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers that.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to follow up to
Yeah.
that.
Please ask.
In the African culture,
Yeah.
as I think it's true,
Yeah.
it's probably true in American culture. I've been to Australia, I've been to Mexico.
Mhm.
One of the things I think I've seen that's a lie that we all have in common. Now, take away the Christian context.
Yeah.
With that removed, would you agree that one of the lies is that men are have lots of sexual conquest? That is something transcultural that you must, if you have more partners, the better.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be kind of a transcultural thing?
Mhm.
Absolutely. In fact, for here, it's a badge of honor.
Mm.
Like there are some people who come out very clean, like they
Mm.
are polygamous, and it just looks in my view, I'm like, whoa, that must be nice. I'm just like, how many wives again? Good options. That must be nice. And also, it looks like if you're able to take care of more than one wife, that means
You must be.
you must
Right.
be doing really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree.
So it isn't necessarily in the US, it wouldn't be that you have that many spouses, but certainly you have that many partners. So in other words, you're not married to them, but
Mhm.
you can brag that you've had all these different conquests. And there's something
Mm.
about that is transcultural. But it's a lie. It's a lie that our sexual conquest somehow determines our ultimate masculinity. And Christianity is kind of unique because we have an example of Jesus
Yeah.
who has zero sexual conquest.
Mm.
There were none.
None.
And yet most of the world admires him. Most of the world sees that they wouldn't say he's not a man. So, it introduces this sort of transcultural alternative that maybe that's not what we need, but I think it is a lie that we all have cultural versions of it and we're all fighting against it.
And I if Byron, because you've worked a lot with men, and sexual conquest is a huge crutch for a lot of men,
Mhm.
and it's one of the things that men have to learn how to tame very early, because it can really take you down. Have you seen that play out in your culture, like destroying men as much, or rather, what has been your experience being on the front line, watching people deal with, let me say, sexual challenges? Let me just put it generally. Yeah.
So the culture tells them it's not destroying them. Right. If you watch our TV and our movies and all of that, culture is telling them, oh, it's just natural. It's part of things and you'll settle down. But internally, it is damaging.
Yeah.
Paul talked about it. I'll bring the Christian context back in.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul talked about how damaging it is to the spirit.
Mm.
And men don't know that they are damaged. They don't know why they are acting the way they're acting. And some of it is the damage of going ahead and being that promiscuous on a regular basis, even though it is enjoyable at the time.
That it's extremely it will cost you a lot.
And there's a lot of emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the end of the road, all of it is just vanity.
Yeah.
It's all vain. Oh man. So that brings us to close of that round. We'll just end with just one truth, one word. Like from this conversation, what's your one truth? And if you could coin it into one word. I know it's hard because we've talked about many things. My one truth is that we are all wounded men.
Yeah.
All of us walk with a limp.
Yeah.
All of us. And what makes us different is those that realize their woundedness and seek the cross for healing. And that is the only place where you get true transformation. The rest of the things are great tools, great accessories, but true transformation is in Christ. My one word, vindicated. Yeah. Let me move to you.
Yeah. So the cultural differences that we experience, I think, can be good. And they're valuable. I don't know that we need to get rid of those. I don't think that the way to be men is to just remove cultural differences. But I think beyond the cultural differences, what we all have in common as human beings, but certainly as men, is our woundedness. And that actually is the great equalizer. That's the possibility of having a world where men care about each other, understand each other, appreciate each other, ironically, is going to be the world where people own their own woundedness and own the fact that you're wounded too. And that we have in common. And that we're working on that and then working through that. And we need each other to do that. That's the world that's possible, where we all live together. But it's got to be where the woundedness is out in the open. Mine is, yours is, and we're seeing it and caring about each other together.
Love you, Judson. Thank you. Byron, wrap it up.
Yeah, we all have blind spots. And we act out of them. And they're more obvious than we think they are.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is, people see them, but they don't know how to tell us. And we also might feel something's off, so we ignore them because, oh, that might mean I'm bad. So so we all have a blind spot that we carry. There was one word of truth for that: light.
Light. Wow. Judson, did you say your one word?
I didn't. And the word for me is just love.
Love.
It's the hope of the world.
Yeah. What a way to end the show. In fact, let me just pick on that. Love. If you love another brother, you need to share this. You need to enlighten them, because at the bottom, at the very basic of who we are, at the core of who we are the same. We are the same. So share this. Also, just give us, share your feedback. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the comment section. You can also drop a like and also give us a thumbs up on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Thank you, gents.